Hello and welcome to Trojan Talk. I'm your host, Aaron Taylor. With me today, Dr. Lance Tatum, Senior Vice Chancellor here at Troy University, here to talk about COVID and the Choice Strong plan here on campus. I want to thank you for joining me here today.
Well, Aaron, I appreciate the opportunity to come in and talk about this. This happens to be a reoccurring activity with us, but always happy to be here.
Well, of course, and one of the main things is we're in a spring semester. We've got a semester under our belt here at Troy University in dealing with COVID and the guidelines and the protocols. How are things going for the spring? What's the plan for the spring? What's the roadmap? And are there any big changes?
Yeah, great question. Let me begin by saying this. The fall for us was a real success story. And I think the success came because there was really total buy-in from all of the internal constituencies within the university. Faculty and staff were amazing. They showed flexibility when we needed flexibility. They showed resiliency when we needed resiliency. The students were outstanding. You know, one of the things I was very proud of is that in early October, we actually met with the student leadership of the campus. And they had lots of questions that they asked, but they also were very interested in being a part of the solution and being part of the success that we wanted to achieve in the semester. So great success in the fall. We learned a lot. We learned that some things worked very well. We learned that some things had to be examined and maybe restructured in some way. I'm pleased to say that for the most part, the spring will start very much like the fall did. We're going to have the protocols in place and guidelines that we started with in August to include face coverings in areas that you need to be having those face coverings on. We're going to restrict the amount of people that can gather within any certain type of organizational meeting. We're going to continue with the social distancing. We're going to keep encouraging the personal hygiene piece of this. Dean Reeves' office has just done a yeoman's job in helping us kind of validate and track the quarantine situation and those who have been exposed. Human Resources with Ashley English has done an outstanding job with our faculty and our staff in the same way that Dean Reeves has worked with students. So for the most part, things are going to be similar. There are a few adjustments that we have made. So one adjustment is how we are going to implement the pod structure that we came up with in the fall. This is an instructional platform. So we're a class that has an enrollment that exceeds the ability to social distance within that classroom. We're breaking the class into smaller groups. Each of those groups, or pods, will meet on a very specified day of the week so that we are still able to do our social distancing. We learned that in this fall that there were some groups of students who struggled with this activity. They weren't exactly sure when they were going to be there, when they weren't supposed to be there. You add into that this idea that faculty and students were going in and out of quarantine. It really did not have the type of face-to-face feel that I wanted to achieve. So in working with the deans and the department chairs, we have a much more structured way in which we're going to deal with that this year. The syllabus should be much more specific and clear in how students are to attend the classes. We have a very good record-keeping process in place now, so we know exactly which sections are going to be potted, who's teaching those sections, and we're going to keep an eye on how those go. We are also going to, to make sure that we don't exceed our ability to keep an eye on what's happening, right? So that goes back to what happens in residential life, what happens in student life. I've said this over and over again. Only about 10% of a student's life is spent inside a classroom.
Yes.
90% of it is outside. So we're going to keep working with student services and the other divisions on campus and making sure that students know we want them to have that experience. I mean, the college experience is very important, but we want them to do it in a safe and a well-intentioned manner.
And of course, the difference between the spring and the fall is there's a potential light at the end of the tunnel that we did not have in the fall, in that there's a vaccine, and that's still the slow rollout and the effects of that. But what's the roadmap? What are you what are you looking at? Because I know you meet with other universities and things like that to talk about what's going on. So what is that roadmap? What is the potential for seeing that light at the end of that tunnel?
Yeah, I think that we're all encouraged by the opportunities that may be presented to us as we move through the spring. I think we still need to be mindful, though, that every day and every week is a gift, right? That if we don't keep a careful eye on what's happening and how we interact with each other, this thing could become unmanageable. And so we want to be mindful of that. In other words, I don't want to throw away the good work that we've done and that we need to do just because the idea of a vaccine may be coming our way. You're totally correct in the idea that we talk to other universities. I spend lots of time emailing on the phone with other chief academic officers throughout the state, the governor's office, Alabama Department of Public Health. Right now, the plan is that universities will see an opportunity to be given dosages to be distributed on campus. We don't know exactly when that is going to occur. There is some talk that that might be April before that happens. It could be before that. I think we just kind of have to wait and see. We're in the process right now, the Corona Task Force is in the process of developing a distribution plan. I think that what we saw in other states early on is that if you operate on a first come, first served basis, it creates problems, right? People end up waiting outside of offices for very long periods of time. So anyway, the idea is that we create this distribution plan. We'll prioritize, those who are most at risk, those who are most exposed, try to get them inoculated first, and then work down to the lower categories. So April is the target, but we'll have to see what happens. Because April is the target, and we know that we may go deeper into the spring, we've made some adjustments to the finals. In terms of the potted structure. Faculty will know what that means, department chairs will know what that means. I would encourage students to talk to their instructors and their department chairs. But it also means we're going to stay with spring break as it is calendared right now. Spring break will occur. We don't have the privilege, or we don't have the opportunity we did in the fall with having Thanksgiving butt into the holidays where we didn't come back. That is not a plan that we have right now. We will go face-to-face in class all the way to the end of the semester.
Unless something else happens, but knock on, there's no wood right here.
That's right.
Hoping that it stays safe. But Lance, I want to thank you for joining me today to tell me about what's going on here. And I know we're going to get you back here as soon as we get that vaccine news, and we're going to talk about how we get that there. But for now, thank you for this update, and thank you for joining us here today. So
happy to do it. Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us on today's edition of Trojan Talk.